Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Last hour of the week for us here. I hope that work week's in the rearview mirror. If not, we'll get you to the finish line on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jason Caldwell covers the Auburn Tigers. He's going to be with us in 15 minutes. That's the one team on LSU's schedule we did not spend as much time on at SC Media Days last week, and Jason was there. I had a chance to potentially get him on, but he had family in town in Tampa, and so he wanted to get out and hang out with them. And I said, probably more important than sitting here with me and talking about Auburn for 15 minutes. So we let Jason run along, and he said we'd catch him this week, so we did today. We'll catch up with him in 15 minutes talking Auburn. LSU hasn't played Auburn on the Plains in a number of years, and so it'll be good to get back there. 11 o'clock kickoff and in a new era of Auburn football with Alex Golish at the helm. So we'll talk to Jason in 15 minutes. Right now, we'll talk about the New Orleans Saints. 3 practices in the rearview mirror. Jordyn Tyson had an opportunity to meet with the assembled media today and covered a number of topics. Obviously, Chris Olave front of mind today as he got that contract worked out yesterday, and they kind of formed the top 2 guys in the Saints passing attack. I spoke back in hour number 1, if you missed it, about how I felt good about the numbers in the Olave contract because of the numbers in Jordyn Tyson's contract. And when you pay your number 2 receiver $8 million a year, you can afford to go north of $30 million or right at $30 million for Chris Olave because you average those 2 guys out. Paying $38 million a year to your top 2 wide receivers, I think is a really reasonable thing to do. And for the life of Olave's contract, Jordyn Tyson's going to be right there on that rookie deal unless he really balls out and they've got to go ahead and restructure that thing and extend it early. So right now, it's I believe, a really nice tandem that could really blossom into something excellent if Tyson becomes what we think he can be. And Jordyn Tyson today talked about playing opposite Chris Olave.
It's amazing. Chris is a great player. He gets off the ball super fast. He can run every route, do everything necessary at the receiver position. And I'm just trying to take notes from him, ask questions, and yeah, he's kind of the vet for me, so that's amazing.
And yesterday we had Luke Johnson on from NOLA.com, and he was talking about how watching Jordyn Tyson in limited time, it was just very similar to watching Olave move out there, just bigger. And I think that's what you want. Immediately, Jordyn Tyson becomes the most physically gifted wide receiver on your roster. Immediately. He's bigger than Olave. He's more athletic than Olave. He's got a ways to go to be as productive as Olave. He's a consistent 1,000-yard receiver. But athletically, he's the best you got. And I think it's awesome when I hear Luke Johnson, who's obviously out there every single day, him talk about the similarities in what they do. It just gives you a great role model to learn from. And Tyson hinted at that in that clip, and then he expounded on learning from Chris Olave, who now is a 4-year vet right here.
Chris is a real quiet guy, but when he says something, it's the truth. It's the 100% the truth, and it's real. And yeah, I'm definitely just like I said, asking questions, picking his mind. He's probably gonna get tired of me, but shoot, I'm getting better.
I like that. He's going to get tired. Just ask questions. Speak up. You got to do that as a young rookie. Now, when I think about Jordyn Tyson personally, this is just a me thing because I watched some highlights and whatnot. I think of him as a big play guy. I think of him as a guy with huge vertical ability. I think of him as a guy that takes the top off of defenses, that has great speed and good size. And I think about all the things you can't really teach that Jordyn Tyson possesses, which are, to me, pretty special. Route running doesn't immediately come to mind. I never suggested that he was a bad route runner. It's just not what comes to mind for me. But they asked him about his ability as a route runner because you can't get by on the NFL with just freakish athleticism unless you're Calvin Johnson or Randy Moss. And as athletic and gifted as Jordyn Tyson is, he's not Calvin Johnson and he's not Randy Moss. He's a really athletic dude, but he's not those dudes. So you got to be able to get off the line. You got to be able to run routes. And Jordyn Tyson talked about his ability as a route runner entering the NFL.
So it really started in high school. I was short, so I played slot receiver. So I was like more the twitchy, like smaller guy, can run routes. And then I just grew to 6'2" and just happened to still obtain that ability. So that's really what it comes from. But still just looking at the small details, critiquing everything, even if you catch the ball, seeing what I can still get better on. So
I love those stories. You know what that made me think of? It's not a great ending in New Orleans for this guy, but that story made me think of Anthony Davis. If you were familiar with him in high school and in that Kentucky, he was a guard his whole life. He was an undersized guard his whole life, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of high school, he just shot up, and he was 6'10". Well, he had been dribbling and shooting his whole life. And then he grew into this huge body. And so he still kept some of those skills with his hands and his touch and all that kind of stuff, but he just grew to ridiculous length. And I think to have to do it one way and then to actually get the physical gifts that you didn't have compared to your peers, it makes you a better player. When you can just lean on your physical gifts, the kids, watch the Little League World Series. Watch the Little League World Series. The kids that have hit puberty at 12 or bashing homers. I don't know if they're good or not, if they have good mechanics or not, but they're just bigger and stronger than everybody, so they just bully everybody all over the field. You can see a youth football game, it looks the same way. But the guys that have to do it technically and then get the physical gifts later, I think that's a great way to go about it. And I'm not familiar with Jordyn Tyson's story back in high school, but there you have it. It probably explains why he ended up at Arizona State and not at one of the Blue Bloods. But he grew into a great, great player and became a first-round pick of the New Orleans Saints. And that was a process, and we all talked about it throughout that time of dealing with the injury history that Tyson had. Multiple hamstring injuries to different legs is a red flag. And that's something the Saints had to vet very, very closely. And Jordyn Tyson spoke today about the exchange between him and professional organizations, the Saints included, on what that process was like and how he felt entering the draft.
There was a recurrence for your hamstring injury before the draft. Can you elaborate on that, or like did you get hurt again, or what happened?
During the combine process, but wasn't nothing crazy. Just kind of continued to work as I was the whole time. But we're doing just fine now. Back on track.
Are you on like a maintenance plan at all?
Just a ramp up.
Ramp up,
or maintenance too in the training room. Just keep stuff strong. Yeah, kind of a lot of people on that, but yeah.
Is it one of these things you want to? They're holding you back.
I've obviously dealt with the injuries before, so it's important to have your warm up. It's important to have the small little micro doses of stuff, and yeah, I enjoy it. More work, getting better.
Look, I know there are plenty of y'all out there in Black and Gold Who Dat Nation that are going, this is risky. It's a risky draft pick. I just don't know. I think there's a chance he gets hurt, and like that is not an unreasonable thing to think. And when you hear things like that with the recurrence of the injury in the combine process and the kid gloves they used in camp and the ramp up that he's got to go through and the treatment that he's got to get and the fact that this dates back a couple of years now, like, I get it. I fully get it. And if you're proven right, you'll look really, really smart and I'll look really foolish. I was willing, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an orthopedics expert. I don't know what Jordyn Tyson's feeling. I don't look at the MRIs. I don't know. But I thought it was a worthwhile bet based on the ability and the need of this team. You needed a number one potential receiver, certainly a high level number two, if not a number one. And I thought he gave you the best chance at that. We'll see. But I understand those of you that hear that bite and go, that doesn't make me feel great. I get it. But we'll see. So now he's in camp. Now he's working. Now he's working on becoming a factor for this team. And one of the guys he's got to lock horns with every day is Kool-Aid McKinstry. He talked about that.
His technique as well. He's confident in his technique. He plays great off man. He knows how to latch on the receivers. He knows to play with physicality. He knows to play against physicality. So, yeah, he's a great player. He knows to latch on and scramble drill. So, yeah, he's doing a great job right now. Hopefully he can continue it.
Got to play against the best. This is a step up in class for Jordyn Tyson in a big way from the Big 12. I can promise you that. But I've got a good feeling about Jordyn Tyson. I think he's going to be a huge addition to this team. The hammy goes in week 2. You understood the risk, but I think he's going to be a really, really good player. And I feel a lot better today about the Saints wide receiver situation than we did in December of last year. That goes without saying, but to say it, I really do. So that's a look at Jordyn Tyson meeting with the media today. Saints going to take some time off this weekend. They'll be back in action in a couple of days, and we'll certainly catch up with them Monday and moving forward as training camp's in full swing. And they'll throw some pads on at some point next week, which will be a welcome sight. And we'll certainly have our normal guests. Sharif Ishak will be here on Tuesday, Luke on Thursday. Sean Fazan's usually on call. Kat Terrell usually on call. So we'll get those folks involved, and always appreciate them for putting eyes on it and then giving us what they see, because it's tough for us to get down there to New Orleans and do a midday radio show. So we'll let them handle the eyes on. Of course, my guy Ross Jackson. But Ross, generally on with Matt. We don't love to double up show to show. So Ross does an awesome job for LouisianaSports.net, and he'll be checking in with Matt most days on After Further Review right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. All right, we'll step aside, take a timeout. Jason Caldwell and the Auburn Tigers. LSU's on the Plains in October. What are they going to be facing? We'll talk to Jason next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. It's not just redesigns and remodels. It can also be, in a way, a remodel, but it's kind of repair, right? If you've got a crack or an imperfection in your shower or in your bathtub, and you see it, and it's not that big, and you think that's no big deal, don't do that. Because if you do that for 6 months, you don't know where water is going through that crack. And it may be getting into your wall, if that's on the second floor, down into the first floor ceiling. And all of a sudden, you've got significant rot, you've got significant mold, you've got issues in places you can't see that can be really, really, really expensive. I've been in insurance for 7 years, and water causes more damage than you realize all the time. So if you've got an imperfection, a crack in your shower or your tub, don't wait. Don't wave it off. Call David Duvall, One Bath and Closets. Let him come out and take a look at it. He'll be able to determine whether or not it's a quick fix or it's something that they need to get in and really take care of. And if you need to remodel things at that time because there's been damage, David is happy to do that for you. He's transformed bathroom after bathroom after bathroom throughout the Baton Rouge area. And he can do it for you. And they'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com. Get that free consultation today with David Duvall. It's all there at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Had a fun week in Tampa, Florida last week. Saw a lot of folks, Jason Caldwell being one. And look, when we want to talk Auburn Tigers, there's only one phone call we make, and that is to Jason Caldwell. Almost 3 decades covering Auburn on the Plains, part of the 24/7 network. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Jason, how we doing?
I'm good, Hunt, man. What's up?
Not a lot, just working through a Friday here. Let's talk some Auburn. Before we get into Alex Golish and what this team's going to look like, Auburn just hadn't played well enough for the last 5 years. Is the infrastructure at Auburn good enough, and it just hasn't been coached and recruited well enough, or is there something deeper there?
Yeah, no, I think the infrastructure is in really good shape. You know, built a brand new facility, got enough money to go compete. You know, they just haven't been able to finish and do things. Last year, I think you look at it and go, man, what's the difference in this league now? And you go, well, at the very top of the league, you know, you got Georgia and those teams, but they're not blowing teams out like Georgia and Alabama did for the last 15 years. And so can you win close games? And last year Auburn went 5-7 and lost 6 games by less than 7 points or less. And the other one was a 10-point loss to Georgia where they should have been up probably at least 17-0 at the half. And so you went, and you had the option and ability to win every one of those games, and you lost all of them. And so that's kind of been the way. I did a stat recently. They, like in the last, I think it's the last 5 years, they're 5-17 in games decided by 7 points or less. That's the difference between being 8-4 and 5-7. And you know, if you've been 8-4 the last few years, you probably still have your head coach, and you're still in a position to go, man, all right, let's take the next step. They just haven't been able to win those close games, and so that's the task now: is can you find a way to win some of those games and flip a 5-7 to an 8-4.
What made Alex Golish attractive to the Auburn administration?
Yeah, I think one thing is it feels old school. I think is one thing. You know, you think about when Auburn's been at its best. You know, going all the way back to Coach Dye and to when Tuberville and even Gus and Gene Chizik, it was physical, run the football, play defense, do all those things, and that's just the identity of Auburn football. And look, and you try to do all those other things, and it just hasn't worked out. And so I think you get back to a guy that wants to be physical, run the football. And I think the other part of it is that, you know, you get to go, okay, how do you start the process now? Start it with a quarterback. And look, you're able to plug into place Byron Brown, and kind of led the nation in total offense last year. Bring with him a lot of assistance, some offensive linemen, some wide receivers, and you know, there's no exact blueprint because you're not going to follow what Indiana did, but it feels similar to where you're going. Listen, you're starting over, but you're not starting from ground zero because there's a lot of people that are familiar with each other, and so I think that's the hope is that listen, it's year one, but it's going to feel year like 1.5 or 2 because of the familiar faces that are all together.
I told my listenership, I saw Byron Brown walking toward me in the hallway of that hotel. I think I told you this too, but I didn't know who it was, and I saw his name on one of those cards that they put on those easels so you know who's in that room. And I went, oh, I thought that was a linebacker. That's the quarterback. So tell us what kind of player that Auburn's got under center, behind center, I guess I should say, in Byron Brown this year.
Yeah, it feels like a Nick Marshall kind of guy, in that I think he's going to run to get down here. Like physically, the comparison, when you look at him, the comparison is a little bit of Dak Prescott now. Like he can really run. The throwing motion is going to throw people off when you see him because it has a little bit of a Bernie Kosar kind of look. It's 3/4, Phillip Rivers kind of thing. But I think you look and go, look, everything's going to be predicated off him running the football. Like most guys, if he has to throw it 50 times a game, you're probably not going to work out very well. There's not many times you go Joe Burrow and it's going to throw it a bunch and it's still going to be good. But I think you look at what he can do, and I think it's going to be physical running the football. I went and looked last year, and they were top 20 in the country in red zone touchdown percentage. And, you think about adding the extra runner because of the quarterback in a red zone, a guy that weighs 235 pounds. And I would expect them to lean on that. And listen, Alex Golesh is a Josh Heupel disciple, and it's tempo, try to run fast, try to wear people down and try to get to the line of scrimmage and snap the football. And that feels 2013-esque for Auburn, and we'll see if they can make some of those plays.
A lot of good running backs over the years on the Plains. Jeremiah Cobb didn't have a lot of help last year. How much better can he be?
Yeah, and I think the key is like you add the dimension of the quarterback to that as well, and you go, man, if you have to worry about the quarterback running the football, you open up some more running lanes for Jeremiah Cobb, and it's a guy that I've seen since he was a sophomore in high school, and he is just steady. He's who he is, and you kind of think about over the years, where does he fit? And like he's kind of unique, but it feels a little bit like a Trey Mason guy. And he's probably not as strong as Trey was, but he's got some of those qualities where he's a really good runner. It gets downhill and doesn't take a lot of losses. And so he's a guy that'll put his foot in the ground and get downhill. And you had Bryson Washington from Baylor, a guy that had a couple of really good seasons for them, and then Omar Mabson's a redshirt freshman who graduated a year early in high school, so he played at 17 last year. So it's a guy now that you got some depth at running back, with Nakai Davenport coming from USF. So it feels like the mix is there pretty good to let Jeremiah Cobb, just go full blow and then give him a break.
Jason Caldwell is our guest. You can follow him at ITAT Jason, covering Auburn for almost 3 decades there on the Plains. It was a big deal here that Blake Baker stayed in a coaching transition. Is it a similar feeling with DJ Durkin at Auburn?
Yeah, no question. I mean, you think about, one of the keys for Auburn because of that was because you had so much young talent on defense. They played some older guys, and you lost a few of those guys. But you think about the young guys on this defense, they were able to stay. And obviously Xavier Atkins is a guy that LSU fans are very familiar with that just kind of found his footing in this defense last year. But, you had a bunch of young secondary guys and a group of freshman linebackers that all played last year. And you go, and that's why if you're able to keep him, you don't have to completely start over on defense. And so if you're rebuilding the offense, there's not a ton of faces there. But defensively, because of the DJ Durkin being back, you're able to kind of start and continue the process. Like I said, LSU's the same thing. You're not starting over on both sides of the ball, and that's a really good position to be in.
Look, I see in the middle of the schedule at Tennessee, at Georgia, LSU, at Ole Miss, obviously the Iron Bowl at the end in Tuscaloosa. How important is that start Baylor, Southern Miss, home Florida, home Vanderbilt, those first 4 games for Auburn.
Yeah, really, really big. And, the thing you just don't know is you don't know till it's over with what game is the biggest one, because there's so much unknown. Because last year Auburn goes to Baylor in week 1, and you go, and that's a key game. Baylor been pretty good, and you go out there and win at Baylor. They run the football, and you go, okay, man, that's exactly what you thought this team might look like, and then it just went away. And so you're right, but with the schedule, with the road games, I mean, listen, they drew the 4-5, so they have 5 road games this year. And so because of that, when 2 of those are Georgia and Alabama, and the other one's Ole Miss, you start going, okay, that's pretty rough treading there. So, yes, you got to take advantage of those home games early in the season.
No question about that. I'm curious about this, the dynamics in the state of Alabama. With Alabama losing what they have, which is 8 games in the last 2 years, does that feel any different for the folks at Auburn that Saban's not just kind of lurking? I mean, it certainly felt that way in Baton Rouge for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. It feels different. Look, even Georgia, because Auburn went toe-to-toe with Georgia last year, and that was a 5-win Auburn team. I think it's across the board in this league. You look, and because of the transfer portal, because of the way this thing works, like, guys don't stay around to be backups any longer. So the depth that those teams had isn't there any longer. And so you start going, listen, Alabama doesn't have 14 5-star defensive linemen to rotate like they did a few years ago. And so you think about that, like, that's the difference. And the other part is, like, you look around this league, and, LSU didn't bring a quarterback. We know who their quarterback is. But there's teams, Alabama's one of them. It feels strange now to think about a quarterback battle in August camp because of the transfer portal. You now you just go get your quarterback. It feels strange to not know who your quarterback is, and they may know, but if they do, it's still going to be a guy that doesn't have very much experience, and that's an interesting part of this. And they didn't run the football very well. I think from an Auburn's perspective, you feel like it's the first time in 20 years where you feel like this is a real opportunity to go and to get back, to equal footing, or maybe to get back in front of Alabama, because you hadn't had that opportunity in a long time.
No question about that. Jason, great to see you last week. Appreciate the time. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up during football season.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Jason
Caldwell, part of the 24/7 team covering Auburn, does an awesome job. Been at it for 27 years covering the Auburn Tigers. It's interesting. All of that's interesting to me. Auburn's a fascinating case because that's a demoralizing, as demoralizing as it felt, and I've said this a lot of times, to feel like every single year your season was on the line in Baton Rouge on November the 7th or 4th or 8th or whatever day that game fell, and you just usually came up short. And in the days of the SEC West, where if you lost to Alabama, it was over. It was just felt like your whole season kind of came down to one deal. It's kind of even worse when you're sitting there at Auburn and you're trying to recruit your own state against just a machine there with Nick Saban. And now that's Kalen DeBoer's done okay. They made a playoff last year. They won a playoff game on the road last year. It's not like they've fallen flat, but it's just not the same. And that's just got to be a breath of fresh air for Auburn, but you got to take care of your own house. And the one thing that I noticed when I looked at Auburn before we went to Tampa for media days is they've just been bad for the last 5 years. They've just been bad. Mississippi State's been worse, and Kentucky has been worse, and Arkansas has been worse, and that's about it. Everybody else they're the bottom of the league. And Jordyn, I'll just take your opinion on this because I just mentioned it to Jason. We'll see what they do against Baylor and Atlanta, home Southern Miss, home Florida, home Vanderbilt.
Yep.
But here's October, and you tell me how many games you think Auburn's going to win.
Okay.
At Tennessee.
That's a hard one. Man. I like Auburn's quarterback more than Tennessee, so I'll take that one.
At Georgia.
Georgia.
LSU.
Ooh-wee. This is where LSU is at Auburn.
At Jordan-Hare.
That's a toss-up. I'll go Auburn. Just for the sake of it, I'll go Auburn.
At Ole Miss.
Probably Ole Miss.
And there's a bye week in there. There's a bye week before Georgia. That's the worst team to have a bye week because they're not going to go to Georgia and win anyway.
Yeah.
So, that's 4 games, 3 on the road, at Tennessee, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, plus LSU in the middle there. Yep. And, oh, by the way, none of that includes the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa, which is the end of the season. It's just if they come out of the gates and say they could start 2-2 versus Baylor, Southern Miss they're going to beat, and then versus Florida, versus Vanderbilt. Like, they could start 4-0. But if they start 2-2, they could be 2-6 in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
In year one under goals. And that is just such air out of the balloon. If you're 2-6. Now, I don't believe they'll be 2-6. I kind of like Auburn personnel-wise because I like their quarterback. I saw him in the hall, as I mentioned. Then I went to YouTube and watched his highlights. And I get it. Playing at South Florida is not the same as playing in the Southeastern Conference. But this dude fits in the Southeastern Conference. He is 6'3", 235 pounds, and he can run in the SEC. Now, I don't think he wants to run 22 times a game, but he can get a first down on 3rd and 2. I promise you. I saw him in person. He's huge. And they got a running back that ran for 1,000 yards on a terrible offense last year. What do they do up front? We'll see. And then DJ Durkin's had good defenses in the SEC for a lot of years. They're going to be a decent football team, and they may be 6-6 to show for it because this schedule is just awful. Like, they do have manageable road game at Mississippi State, and they've got home games they can win against Florida and Vanderbilt and Arkansas, and then so that's doable. And I think those October games, Georgia, they got a 10% chance to win. I think at Tennessee and at Ole Miss are both well under 50%, and I think LSU's a little under 50%. I like LSU to go to Auburn and win. If they can't, I've talked about this a lot. If LSU can't go to Auburn and Kentucky and Arkansas and win, then this season's not going to be what anybody expects anyway. If you lose any of those games, then you're not going to achieve what you want to because you're not going undefeated at home this year. I'll be stunned if LSU beats Clemson and A&M and Texas and Alabama all at home. That would surprise me if you do that. So you've got to take care of your business against some of these lesser teams on the road. Auburn's interesting because I think their quarterback's pretty good, but they've been bad for a while, and they got to get it figured out on the Plains because that's a program way too proud to be at the bottom of the SEC over the last 5 years in wins with teams like Arkansas and Mississippi State. That's not Auburn football. Appreciate Jason for giving us a little time here on this Friday. 30 minutes to go. Come back with us on Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Been telling you about it, and I'll tell you about it for one more day because GMC at Fabry Chevrolet GMC is offering employee pricing on 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali's now until August the 3rd. You realize that that's just a couple of days, and they're closed on Sunday. So today, tomorrow, Monday, get on by. Chevy's offering 0% APR financing for 5 years on 2026 Silverado 1500s plus no monthly payments for 90 days. No monthly payments for 90 days and 0% on those Chevy Silverados. Plus, bonus cash on select new vehicles for firefighters, police officers, 911 dispatchers, EMT paramedics. If you're a first responder, you can get great savings at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Great customer service. Awesome location right there on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Go by and see them. If you want to check out the inventory online first, be my guest. FabryChevrolet.com. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Online at FabryChevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carbo and his team, they know what they're doing when it comes to group and employee benefits. If you're a business owner, if you're a CFO, if you're in charge of insuring your employees, you know how financially complicated that is, how much of a burden it can be on the bottom line of a business. If you've had a bad renewal in the recent past, if you're fearful of your next renewal with your health care, vision, dental, all the benefits that you insure your employees with, contact the Highland Insurance Group. They're happy to have the conversation. They have, over the course of the last 6-8 months, really made a difference with a number of their clients by giving a second option. There is a certain carrier that handles a lot of benefits in our state that has significantly risen premiums over the last 2 years. If you feel like you know who I'm talking about and that's your carrier, contact the Howland Insurance Group. They're an independent broker, and they've got contracts with multiple carriers. They can take another look. I'm not telling you they're going to wipe 12% off the bottom line. I'm telling you they can give another option, and they've had success helping businesses by helping the bottom line. It's important to insure your employees. You attract employees with that. You retain employees with those benefits. If you want to take a second look, Jonathan Carbo and the Highland Insurance Group are happy to talk to you. They're online at highlandig.com. ESPN.com's got a list out of the X Factor for the top 25, each team in college football. And I felt pretty comfortable before I scrolled down to LSU knowing what it was going to be. Wasn't going to be anything on the defense because you got Blake Baker back. You've got some familiar faces. You got some proven commodities that have come in, like Uman Mielen, like Benefield. I didn't think it would be defense. I'm looking at the offense. Like, it could be the offensive line, and certainly there are a lot of new wide receivers. You could tell me that Trey Green was an X factor, and I would believe that as well. But it ultimately boils down to one spot, right? It's the quarterback, and that's what it was. Sam Leavitt is the X factor for LSU, and that's really true, especially when you consider the injury history. It has to be considered. Hopefully, it's a non-factor once we get out there on Wednesday, but it has to be considered. And it's just really hard to point anywhere else. And it'll be a tired talking point, a tired narrative by the time we get to Clemson game week, but we're not quite there yet. It's talking season. It's list season. It's X Factor season. And yeah, Sam Leavitt is the X Factor. And that was not anything that took me off guard whatsoever when I read it. I believe it's to be correct. And you'll hear a lot of different thoughts on Sam Leavitt. You'll hear a lot of people around Baton Rouge who would suggest this guy is going to be a game changer, a difference maker, a guy who was a playoff quarterback as a redshirt freshman and has won a ton of games, has a lot of ability, and is playing for a coach who can get the best out of quarterbacks. You've heard me say that. You hear that a lot out of Baton Rouge. You hear a lot of national talking heads talk about how much they like Sam Leavitt. I know that Todd McShay is high on Sam Leavitt. I know that Joel Klatt is high on Sam Leavitt. There's a lot of guys in the national media that feel like LSU's got a difference maker at quarterback. You're also going to hear some detractors who would say, yeah, Cam Scattergoo ran for 1 billion yards. Jordyn Tyson, first round wide receiver. Big 12, not great defenses. Played an SEC defense at Mississippi State twice, didn't play well. Missed the whole spring. New system. You can say that too. But ultimately, it's just going to be what he does on the field. And I am choosing to bet on Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss here. And I think it's going to be just fine. I think Sam Leavitt's going to be good. And that was the first place I wanted to look on this list. Now, I wanted to look at some of the teams that LSU is going to play as well. And the first on the list, because Clemson is not in the top 25, so that's not first on this list. The first opponent LSU sees on this list is Ole Miss, who's ranked number 8. And the X factor is not John David Baker. It's not Pete Golding at head coach. The X factor is not the offensive line in front of Trinidad Chambliss and Kejuan Lacey. You're replacing really good wide receivers. The X factor that Ole Miss has here is Luke Farrelly. And it's not because he was the poster child for tampering in the offseason. It's because the sentiment is that Ole Miss wasn't very good at linebacker last year. This story states, overall, Ole Miss gave up 5.2 yards per play, somewhat uncharacteristic of a Golding coach defense. They ranked 69th in the nation in run defense, giving up 4.2 yards a carry. And the thought is that a lot of that was not on the defensive front, which everybody believes is going to be really good at Ole Miss with Eccles and Perkins and that crew is going to be really good on the defensive front. They think the linebackers were an issue. And they think that they've addressed that with Luke Farrelly, who was great at Cal, made 91 tackles, and was the ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Clemson wanted him, and he ended up at Ole Miss, and they think he's going to be really good. And that's a key to LSU, who's going to want to run the football at Ole Miss. But there's another aspect to that sends off some bells from Tampa last week where I was talking to a lot of people, and then you see it written here on ESPN, is that the thought is that TJ Daugherty was not necessarily a strength on Ole Miss's defense last year. Yes, whenever I talk about TJ Daugherty, I immediately go to led the SEC in tackles, led the SEC in tackles, led the SEC in tackles. And he did. He played 15 games. That helps. He didn't lead the SEC in tackles per game, but he played 15 games, and he had the most tackles of any player in the SEC. And that's production. There's no question about that. But you look at something like this that suggests that Ole Miss was not very good at linebacker. You listen to some Ole Miss beat writers, and you can tell me it's sour grapes all you want, and that's fine. I don't shy away from that sentiment, but it's an analysis of the team. Ole Miss felt like they need to get better at linebacker. And so here's the deal that I go back to. there are 4 guys that ended up at LSU from Ole Miss. Winnie Watkins, TJ Daugherty, Prince Uleman-Mielen, and Devin Harper. Ole Miss only signed 2 of those guys to rev share agreements. And you could make the point that they did that because those are the 2 guys they wanted to keep, and they felt like they could replace the other guys more easily. That's Daugherty and Watkins, and it brings me back to Daugherty. And I'm not here to disparage the guy. I really enjoyed talking to him at SEC Media Days. But the sentiment is that although the stat sheet suggests TJ Daugherty was really, really good last year, the folks in Oxford aren't as sure. The folks at ESPN aren't as sure. And the folks at Pro Football Focus are not sure. You look at his grades last year, they're not great. So that's something to pay attention to with LSU on that defense. When I talk about their linebacker core, I'm going to talk about how high the floor is. Because Weeks is there and has been massively productive. Because Daugherty is there and has been massively productive. Because Devon Keys has been there and has been massively productive. He was second in the SEC in tackles last year. But would you say that Devon Keys was like a game changer last year? I don't know if I'd go that far. Productive, yeah. Great, So it's Blake Baker and really Chris Kiffin's job, who's now the linebackers coach, to make sure that those guys are stepping up a notch. That those guys are playing a little bit better than they did last year. I still think LSU's got a good linebacker core. But, this is a time to kind of pay attention to what's going on in the SEC personnel-wise and what people think about this guy or that guy. It'll all be proven on the field. But I was interested to see that when you're talking about X factors like, Ole Miss, it's Luke Farrelly at linebacker because they felt like that was patching a hole in the defense, and the hole is on LSU's starting defense for next year. Again, I'm not telling you it's true. I'm telling you what people are saying, what I'm reading. We'll see. I'll consider that as I start talking about this team as we get into August, which, by the way, we'll be in on Monday. LSU reports to camp on Tuesday, and we'll practice for the first time Wednesday morning, I believe, sometime before the noon o'clock hour. So we're here. We're just about here. Saints are in business, and LSU cranks things up Tuesday into Wednesday with that first practice. We got one more order of business. It's take it or leave it. We'll get to that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Marucci. Go take a tour at Marucci. You're still not in school. Those kiddos aren't in school. They're looking for stuff to do for the last week or so. Take a tour of Marucci. Learn where the official bat of Major League Baseball is made. 1,200 every single day. You can see the process. See where they take that wood, shave it down, mold it into the official bat of Major League Baseball, stain it, ship it off. Best players in the world swing Marucci. And it's a great story right here in Baton Rouge. You can learn the story. You can see the facility. It's awesome. And become a member of the Hitter's House. Got a youth baseball or softball player wants to take some hacks, wants to get in the cage. You can do it 24/7 with your key card access at the Hitter's House at Marucci. Get on by. Tell them you heard about it on 104.5 ESPN. You want to become a member so your kiddo can get in there and take some swings. It's all there at Marucci. They're online at MarucciSports.com. It is Marucci.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Got a back-to-school party or an end-of-summer party, maybe a birthday party, feeding the office for a lunch and learn, or just because you're a nice boss on a Friday. Cork's always happy to do some catering for you. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. Delicious jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy fried catfish, the shoestring fries, get the slaw, honey butter rolls. Got your hush puppies. Get the beignet bites. Always a great option for dessert. Got the tackle box kids meals for the kids if you're looking for that as well. Great option right there on Government between Foster and Jefferson. The entire menu's there online at corksfishandshrimp.com. Check them out. They bring you our Friday shows over at Corks. All right, let's close out the week with Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, Hunt, so a lot of crazy things have happened over the last couple of days, and TSA has had to speak up. So people have tried to bring some truly bizarre things through the airport over the years.
Okay.
And well, today, they discovered a live snake hidden inside a computer during a baggage screening. So,
A what?
a live snake was hidden inside of a laptop screen as it was going through the baggage. So TSA had to come out with a, hey,
Is
man.
this like those big, colorful Mac computers that
No,
I had
no,
in
no,
sixth
no.
grade that was like the size of an oil drum?
No, we talking slim.
A laptop?
Laptop, snake, live snake.
No.
So we're going to, you know what?
Is this an intentional smuggling?
I don't know. I don't even know, like, the intent of bringing the snake.
Despise snakes, okay?
Not a snake guy.
Despise. This is the most frightening creature on the planet. Snakes can choke you.
Yep.
They can spit venom at you,
Yep.
bite you and
Bite
kill
you.
you. They can swim and climb trees.
Can climb
it's the
trees.
most terrifying invention in history. And under no circumstance can one be on an airplane while I'm there.
Sneaking it on the plane, by the way. Snakes on the plane.
I've had this recurring dream over a lot of my life where I am walking in a nondescript place, a house, an office, a classroom,
No
whatever,
idea. Just walking.
and there are snakes coiled up, not moving, just coiled up at every inch, and I'm just tiptoeing around them
the
like
snakes?
endlessly. They're just everywhere.
Oh, my goodness.
I haven't had it in a while, thankfully, but I've had this a lot of times. I don't like it. I don't like snakes, and I don't like this take it or leave it. Get rid of this. Get rid of this segment.
All right, so you might like this one. Chips Ahoy will give
Yes, this is much better.
We'll
Chips
give
Ahoy.
$25,000 to someone who correctly guesses this new mystery cookie. It's a limited edition hidden flavor. You know, it's got caution packaging all around it, and basically they're doing like a social media thing. They want fans to come in, guess this cookie flavor, and they'll reveal the flavor on Halloween. So could Hunt Palmer guess this cookie flavor for $25,000?
I mean,
take it or leave it.
Take it.
I'll take it.
I've tasted all the flavors. I mean, what
It's
are
a
we
mystery
talking
flavor.
about?
I
here?
don't know. So can you guess it for $25,000?
How many tries do I get? One?
I mean, you just got to put it in there. It's like social media wise, they want to do like one of those little.
You don't get to taste it.
Yeah, no, you
just
gotta
get
guess
to
it. You gotta guess it.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes more sense.
Yeah,
I was
you gotta
like,
guess
well,
it.
just let me taste it. I'll tell you what the flavor
Yeah,
is.
no, you got to guess it.
Well, probably not.
a
I probably
crapshoot.
can't guess. Based on what we've been hearing Cheetos doing and what everybody's doing, I
Yo,
mean,
it's gonna be
but
crazy.
surely it's something sweet, and we're not doing something.
But it's
outta-
Halloween, so it's gonna get released during Halloween. So let's say it might be a Halloween type of flavor, pumpkin.
I think we're talking a collaboration with some sort of other food company.
Okay.
Which like could be some sort of beverage maker, like they collaborated with a Sprite flavored Chips Ahoy or something.
That would actually, after all these new take it or leave it I've found over the last couple of weeks, I can honestly see that Chips Ahoy and Sprite coming together. And matter of fact, it wouldn't be Sprite, it'd be like cherry Sprite, Chips Ahoy flavored cookies. You know what? You know how we need to go put that in. We might get $25,000.
I don't
man.
think it's gonna happen. I don't like my odds on that.
All right, so all week I've been monitoring this Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been going back and forth, y'all. I promise you, I'm just not using the same thing every day. They've been
That
going
needs
back
to
and
start
forth.
the NFC South is burning. That's
Oh,
what it
yeah.
needs to start.
All right, so the Tampa Bay Buccaneers reportedly, they did not like what Baker Mayfield had to say.
Well, no joke.
You know, basically throwing the franchise under the bus about the contract. And this is what Adam Schefter had to say on Pat McAfee's show today. It almost feels like it's Baker versus the team. Baker's not happy with them. They're not happy with the way Baker spoke about the organization. So, I mean, there's no way this is not a distraction going into the season. Take it or leave it.
You know, I'm going to leave it.
Okay.
I have talked to a lot of former NFL players, all of them LSU guys, and like I know a bunch of guys in the league, but we know a
Yeah.
lot of former NFL players here.
Yes.
And the thing that they've all said is like they understand that it's a business and the guys have to take care of themselves. And then once they get into the locker room at practice, it's not a thing.
Yeah, it's not like
it's,
bad blood.
yeah, and I think I can see it being a big distraction if Baker just hates the Buccaneers front office. But on the same side of it, if he hates the Buccaneers front office,
Yeah.
then you show them up by balling out and signing a $52 million deal with Atlanta next year. Like,
Lord.
like that's Baker doesn't have the option of just like leaving.
Yeah, you can't.
So the only way for him to get more money is to go play well. So it's not a good look, and I'm on Baker's side here. That a 3-year contract or a 2-year
Two.
deal
It was
is
only
just
two.
a 2-year deal is just absurd.
Yeah.
You give Luke McCown a 2-year deal. You don't
Yeah.
give Baker Mayfield a 2-year deal when he goes to the playoffs almost every year. So I realize that paying Baker Mayfield $50 million is a big thing to swallow. But like, what's your other option?
I think it's like Kyle Trask. I don't even know who's the backup
Sick.
at this point. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you want to pick 5th in the draft? Put Kyle Trask out there. So yeah, I don't think Baker was even that inflammatory. He could have said no comment.
He didn't
but,
say nothing crazy. Yeah.
He was very calm.
He was upset.
He's not using profanity.
Yeah.
He said that we're not close to a deal, and I'm disappointed, and I'm just going to go play ball.
Exactly
Like it
what he
wasn't.
said.
I didn't find it inflammatory. So whatever. I don't think Tampa's handling themselves very well there.
But that's it for Take It or Leave It.
All right, that's it for us on this Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, talk some Auburn with Jason Caldwell. The rest of the show is devoted to LSU and the Saints. Talked about LSU's roster and its age, youth, first experience. That's what Hunt on LSU. Heard from Jordyn Tyson. Also talked about Chris Olave's extension. You can find all that at Hunt on Saints. Find all our stuff on demand at the Hunt Palmer Show, wherever you find your sound. Matt's going to drive you home this weekend. And after further review, we're back Monday. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Before I tell you about our friends at Oxnard, it's still hot out there, y'all. It's really hot. It's July. We're moving into August, the hottest time of the year. Make sure you're hydrating. That's important year-round, but especially important this time of year. Staying hydrated is essential for overall health, performance. It plays a key role in how your body functions every day. Proper hydration is going to support your energy, your focus, your recovery. If you're outside for under an hour, drink a cup of water every 15 minutes. Nothing crazy, just a cup of water. If you're over an hour, you need to go with some electrolytes. Aim for a 2-to-1 water to sports drink ratio and try to keep that on the low sugar end. If you feel like you've got a dry or sticky mouth, you're feeling lightheaded, your heart rate's up, or a major red flag, mental changes, then stop. If you feel off, stop. That's the most important thing we've been telling y'all the entire month of July. If you're dehydrated and you need medical attention, find your nearest Oxnard urgent care at oxnard.org/UC. Find your nearest urgent care at oxnard.org/UC.